So hi all, Eric here with another video. This video is, I'm going to call it the Week in Review. There's a lot of stuff happened last week. So let's start, say Sunday. Last Sunday was the Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody knows the Chiefs lost, but I'm still with them. However, President Trump went to the Super Bowl. He's the first president who ever went to a Super Bowl, and guess how much it cost? $18 million. I mean, he didn't go by himself. His Republican cronies and his daughter Ivanka um, and some other people were there. So $18 million. Mm-hmm. And again, remember, they said Doge is here to find fraud. Well, I wouldn't put that under the trip from the president under fraud. That would be under waste. You need to find waste and efficiency before you want to find fraud. And I'm just going to put this nugget on here about fraud. How about the PMBs, the pharmacy management businesses? Filing these when a doctor or some type of medical person sends this information through Medicare or through Medicaid, and they're trying to do this because remember, I can't find it, but a few years ago down in Florida, on 60 Minutes I believe it was 60 Minutes, who did an investigation and found out, I believe it's either 2022 or 2023, $50 million of Medicare fraud because of prescriptions. $50 million of fraud. So that is actually fraud. So that started on Super Bowl day. $18 million wasted. Did he stay to the end in the entire football game? No, he left before even halftime. Yep. So let's go on to Attorney General Pam Bondi. I believe she is the first female federal attorney general. I can't remember, but I believe she is. But guess what? Before she even became the attorney general in Florida, she was a lobbyist for foreign countries. And why does that matter? Because per MSNBC.com, guess what she did on, I want to make sure, guess what she did? This was done, they did this on the 9th, but guess what, they did this on the Friday before. Pam Bondi shuttered the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force. The task force that looks at and vetted the lobbyists for foreign countries. And I'll reiterate, she used to be a lobbyist for foreign countries, and now she's the Attorney General, and she closed the task force for foreign influence. Write that down. That is a receipt. Write that down. Next up, this was a new thing out. I can't remember what day it was. Maybe it was February 3rd. The 50-51, 50 states, 50 protests, one day. Well, coming up on February 28th, this was announced on February 10th. On February 28th, it is an economic blackout day. No purchases. It's time to disrupt the system. So if it's possible, do not pay anything or buy anything. Don't buy anything on Friday, the 28th. But there might be a problem with some of our citizens because Friday at sundown is the first day of Ramadan, to Muslim holiday. But again, February 28th, Economic Blackout Day. No purchases. So let's go forward. So Brian Tyler Cohen, I follow him on YouTube and on Facebook. He is a progressive political content creator. Please follow him because his videos helped me create my own channel. He posted this from at Brad Droff IT, BRADDROFIT. It's a question. And he said, when he posted, he said, I'm curious. And when I posted it, I said, good question. Hey, MAGA Christians, why is it okay for our tax dollars to pay for a White House faith office? Yes, President Trump is about to create a faith office to find anti-Christian information in the federal government. Yes, that is a thing. Why is it okay for our tax dollars to pay for a White House faith office, but it's not okay for our taxes to pay for a homeless shelter, food banks, meals for school kids, or health care for everyone? Explain it to me like we were in a Bible study. That is still a good question. And of course, all of us will just wait. We'll just wait for you to think about the answer. So we'll just wait. Next up. So I believe on his second day, or it may have happened on his first day, President Trump signed an executive order to scrub the CDC and the FDA websites so that they would not be able to show any science or anything about pandemics or anything like that. Because you know what's going on right now, right? There is a tuberculosis thing right now, and measles, and the avian flu. But measles, there's a measles outbreak in Texas. The tuberculosis started in Kansas. It went to other states, and now it's in North Carolina too. My housemate is a medical person. He's a phlebotomist. I keep telling him just be cautious, and he knows all that. But on February the 11th, David Earl Williams III, he got this from thehill.com, an appeals judge ordered the health agencies to restore data scrubbed by the Trump administration. So a win for us. So that information is back on the CDC and the FDA. And I did a post with him. He's just doing what he wants to do just to see if he can get it done. He's stupid. Y'all put a stupid person in the presidency, and all of his cronies around who went to law school and all this, that, and everything. Apparently, they missed the Constitution class that day. But I can tell you, I don't have it in front of me. I think I lost it. But you can get a small copy of the Constitution with all the amendments in a small book. I actually picked up mine in CBS that has a short thing about all 27 or 28 Constitution amendments, letting you know what it is for each amendment. So just go to Amazon, or when you're in the drugstore, just pick up one. I think it was like $8 or something like that. And you'll know that. Because I can tell you, just as an example, the Second Amendment. It does not say anything about machine guns. It doesn't. It doesn't. That's just an example. So let's keep going on. What else did I find? Hang on one second here. I forgot to do this before I started recording. I want to make sure that I give you the right information. All right, here we go. So, who posted this? Because I want to give credit where credit is due. David Earl Williams III on Facebook posted this from Stephen Ratner, at Steve Ratner from Twitter. As soon as Trump returned to office, January CPI inflation, CPI is consumer price index. That means what we pay. Inflation hit 3%, exceeding expectations, which was 2.9%. Yeah, I know it's 0.1, but that matters. And marking the highest monthly increase in a year. So a lot of people keep saying, and I think 2 days ago, when he found out that inflation went up, guess what he did on Truth Social and on X, saying Biden inflation, and that post was reposted 4,000 times. That's ridiculous. When Biden left office, inflation was below 3%. It was below 3%. So what was he going to do in January, between January 1st and January 20th? Yeah, it was still on his watch. However, here's the thing, because I had to educate myself about inflation. The inflation number is based on a rolling 12-month period. Not January through December. It is a rolling 12-month. So we're in February, so the inflation number is based on January to January. And in the month of January, it went up to 3%. And of course, he did an executive order about reciprocal tariffs, meaning that if a country has a tariff set up for our imports to their country, then that is, whatever that amount is, then that's reciprocated by their imports to us, which means inflation will keep going up. So just putting that nugget on there. And David also said this: rather than addressing the economy, he, meaning President Trump, has focused on banning DEI, attacking the trans community. I did a video, and this is all over social media, that the National Parks Service, because the Stonewall Inn is a national museum now, the National Park Service, which is under the Department of Interior, went to the museum and removed every single indicator of queer and transgender history there. Removed queer and transgender from every single place that it was on there in the Stonewall Inn. Now, if that doesn't mean, if you don't understand that that was salt on the wound, it may not necessarily be the wound on the lesbians. It may not necessarily be the wound on the gays or the bis or the queers, and so on and so on. It is a wound on our community because they are cutting transgender people. Well, here's the thing. Here's a note. Trans people will not be erased from our community or our history. They will not. And if you are a transgender person watching this video, I stand with you. I stand with you. And if you see me and you need help, ask me. I stand with you. He's also the stupid thing, unofficially renaming a body of water, you know that, Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, like giving the finger to Mexico and Cuba because the body of water borders their countries as well. And then talking about displacing 4.7 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. And then he was questioned about that during a press conference with Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, asking the idea of what it's going to be. And he didn't want to give anything away, but he just said the Gaza Riviera. Really? Talking about the United States is going to own that land. No, the United States is not going to own that land. That means either Trump's real estate company, that I believe is now being, the leadership are his boys, his sons. Again, money for the Trumps, or the Musk, Elon Musk, or his in-laws, the Kushners. Again, not focusing on inflation, but all of these stupid things that have nothing to do with government. But again, that's a fail. So he doesn't like losing, but that's a fail. He also chose the Chiefs to win because of Mahomes' wife, because she's a MAGA supporter. She is. She's a Trump supporter. Mahomes' mother, Randy, she's a Trump supporter as well. But he talked about her rather than Taylor Swift. But the Chiefs lost, and he was mad about that because when he left, again, I'm still a Chiefs supporter, but when he left, the Eagles were winning 24-0 when he left. So he got mad and he left. Now, what I found on Instagram, we're moving on. What I found on Instagram, this is very interesting because I did a post about Elon Musk. He is by definition, he is a government hire. President Trump called him a special federal employee that can be paid or not paid. Well, he's the richest person on the planet. He gets paid every day, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Which means he should have been, he should recuse himself from the CEO positions of his companies, because that's a rule. You can own companies, but you can't do something in the government that gives you a benefit to your companies, right? So why is it okay for him that it's not for other small businesses? So here's the thing. Connection to my post from the other. Senator Cory Booker, the senator from the state of New Jersey, he's the one who posted this on Instagram. Under Trump's shakeup, there are federal investigations and regulatory battles. So what this shows is, on the left-hand side are the federal investigations, and on the right side are the companies and the regulatory battles. And I'll just read them. The Department of Transportation was investigating SpaceX. The Department of Interior was investigating SpaceX. The Justice Department was also investigating SpaceX, and the National Labor Relations was investigating SpaceX. The regulatory battles under SpaceX were violations, fines, Starbase review, and lawsuit and a complaint. Under Tesla, the National Labor Relations Board, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Under Tesla, investigations, lawsuits, and complaints. I can tell you the news piece that I saw about the Equal Opportunity Commission and the National Labor Relations Board under Tesla, because people were running around, even though they had people of color around them, just dropping N bombs. Yes, the N word, with no consequences. Who can do that, or who does that? White supremacists. And remember, I'll remind you, Elon Musk was born and raised in apartheid South Africa, and his family left. So just set that little nugget aside, and that's a receipt as well. Then we have, I didn't Google this information to see what type of company this is, but I believe the Starlink, his internet company, I believe the Starlink part of his company is under this company called Neuralink. Investigations from agriculture and Securities and Exchange investigations. Then let's talk about X, formerly known as Twitter. There was an investigation and a lawsuit from the National Labor Relations Board, because he fired all those people when he bought it, and a lawsuit from Securities and Exchange Commission. And then Elon Musk himself, federal election commissions, because he paid out of his own pocket over $200 million to, quote, buy the presidency for President Trump. Remember that lottery that he said that there's going to be a ticket every day if you sign up? There might be you pull a ticket and you might get $1 million every day for everybody to register as a Republican. Doesn't sound fishy to me, does it? Now, why does this matter? Because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the bureau that helps us not getting fraudulent things and taken away from us, shut down. The Equal Opportunity Commission shut down. And as a matter of fact, he suspended the act itself that was signed by President Lyndon Johnson back in the 60s. And then, of course, the National Labor Relations. And of course, he's trying to change that so that there won't be any unions in the country, or at least take the power away from the unions. So yeah, that happened. And then I said, then again, the federal health agencies, following the judge orders restoring all of their websites and databases, that actually happened on the 12th. Unfortunately, when I posted it on my Facebook, other people shared it to themselves, because I have friends who are HIV specialists, and so on, who needed that, they needed those websites back up. Also, I have a video about Elon Musk declaring that Social Security is the largest fraud in history. Never mind that you have a job, you pay Social Security into and Medicare out of your pay stub, because a lot of people were agreeing with him that it's fraud. How can it be fraud when it's being me? I took early retirement at 62, which means I got 40 credits. Once I got 40 credits, then my Social Security was waiting for me to start taking it out. And I took it early. And so how is that fraud? I paid into it and now I'm getting it back. How is it fraud? Keep going. Now, I also follow a Facebook group called Call to Activism. And they do a lot of breaking news. So Springfield, Ohio, the city in Springfield, Ohio, and I'll just remind you, during the election cycle, during the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, he yelled out that Haitians, they're eating the dogs, they're eating cats, they're eating the pets. The Haitians who are legal immigrants in Springfield. And so after that, some of the neo-Nazi groups were marching in Springfield after the election as though they were given a blank check to do whatever they want to do. So on February the 13th, Springfield, Ohio filed a lawsuit. The city filed a lawsuit against a neo-Nazi group called the Blood Tribe. The Blood Tribe is a neo-Nazi, has been deemed a white supremacy group. They marched. They have their symbol is a black flag with a Nazi symbol in it. They are actually connected to the Proud Boys. There's a thing about the Proud Boys anymore. They can't even use that name anymore. But we'll talk about that on the next video because there is gathering information about that. The suit accuses them of harassing the Haitian community in the area. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance started a rumor during the campaign in 2024 and spread lies that the Haitian people were eating people's pets. An example of harassment was that members of the Blood Tribe would go to local festivals waving swastika flags, pointing guns at families, and yelling racist slurs before hosting a pro-Nazi rally. Now, if that is not intimidation or racial intimidation, I don't know what is. But of course, this happened after the presidency, which means it was on his watch, which means there should have been a federal investigation on a hate crime. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen. And you know what happened after that. You can surmise what happened after that. There were multiple Haitian families who decided to leave Springfield, Ohio, because they were in fear of their lives. Took their children out of school and then finally left the city. Oh, and just so you know, there were no issues about that. What they found, the whole issue was that a woman said that there was a picture being sent out that a Haitian male kidnapped and stole a cat and killed a cat. Well, guess what? The cat was alive and well in that person's basement. In that basement. And all this started because the president, the now president, and the now vice president were circulating this lie. And I'll just surmise the rest of this, that this is not only disgusting, but also cause sheer terror for local communities based on a callous lie. This is what the Republican Party is supposed to be, backing the blue, the party of the workers. This is what we have now in 21st century, a Republican Party. So let's move on. So then, of course, Tulsi Gabbard got confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. Yep, this is the same woman who was a U.S. representative, ran for president twice, didn't get enough support to even get to the first vote in Iowa. This last year, in 2024, she decided to flip, and now she's a Republican and a MAGA supporter. Well, her biggest thing is she would not call Edward Snowden, who was a military person who gave secrets to Russia. She would not call him a traitor. She just said that what he did, he lied, and she would not use the word traitor. But her biggest thing is that she, on her own volition, flew to Syria to talk to then dictator Bashar al-Assad, who is the dictator of Syria, who used chemical agents on his own people, burned people to keep them in control. And yet they want this person, to be Director of National Intelligence. And some of her statements show that she is a Putin supporter. So I'm just going to leave that. And then, of course, the next day in that video, I was talking about the person at bat was Robert F. Kennedy. So then the next day, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got confirmed. During his hearings, and I have to laugh at this, during the hearings, he was asked to define Medicare Parts A, B, C, and D. He could not give the correct answers. He's Health and Human Services Secretary and doesn't have any idea what Medicare Part A is, what Medicare Part B is, or what Medicare Part C is, or Medicare Part D is. Then he's also the guy who's an anti-vaxxer. He said that he had a worm in his brain. And he also said that he killed a bear and cut the head off and put it somewhere in Central Park in New York. And this is the person who wants to make America healthy again, who was on Air Force One eating McDonald's burgers with Mike Johnson, himself, RFK Jr., the president, and J.D. Vance. Oh, and this is the thing, on his first day after, he wants to incentivize McDonald's to bring beef tallow back. And of course, I had to Google beef tallow to see what it was. And it's a very, very high in saturated fat cooking agent. McDonald's and other restaurants used to use this up until the 90s. McDonald's used this to cook their fries, their world famous fries. Well, beef tallow was found to be connected to cancer. And so McDonald's in the 1990s started using vegetable oil and removed that. Well, Secretary Kennedy, now that he's confirmed and taken his oath, I have to call him Secretary Kennedy, he wants McDonald's to bring beef tallow back. And they will get some tax incentives if they bring it back and put the beef tallow in their burgers. Again, high in saturated fat connected to cancer. You might want to put this under your receipts as well. And the reason I talk about receipts, because an election cycle is coming up, not the presidency, but senators are up for re-election, and House of Representatives, all House of Representatives have to run again. We of course need the House back, and we need the Senate back. So let's move on. Kash Patel, who's going to be the FBI director, his hearing has been delayed. He is a QAnon conspiracy theorist, and that's who they want. And he says he has a list of people he will weaponize the FBI to go after. Yet this is a federal agent who's supposed to protect the United States, both foreign and interior enemies. Let's see. Oh, yes. Starbucks was in the news. The Missouri's Attorney General, and the reason I put this in here is because I lived in Kansas City, Missouri for 11 years. The new Attorney General, this was posted by the Washington Post. Missouri's Attorney General sued Starbucks, accusing it of engaging in discrimination with its diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) policies, and alleging that such initiatives have made the coffee giant's workforce, quote, become more female and less white, unquote. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey has nothing else pressing. This is my post. Nothing else pressing in Missouri that requires his attention, apparently. I guess the women will be fired so they can follow Harrison Butker. He's a kicker for the Chiefs, but he's not just known for that. He is very much into his faith, which I have nothing to do with, but it's based on his speech in so much in a nutshell that he told a women's graduating class that they are sidetracking what could be their best role in their lives, and that as a stay-at-home mom and a homemaker. And so I was saying maybe they could get fired and then now follow Harrison Bucker's idea of embracing the role of homemaker so they don't become one of J.D. Vance's childless cat ladies. And yes, J.D. Vance actually said that during the election cycle, that anyone who doesn't have children should be doing anything with education. Again, he's focusing on women. Yet white women gave them the most votes. White men and white women. So let's move on. This little nugget is from Occupy Democrats. They have a Facebook page that I don't even know why this matters to President Trump, but he took over and installed himself as the chair of the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center that honors different civic and entertainment people during the year. They get installed. I think the last class, Cher, was honored at the Kennedy Center, and I think in that same year, maybe Whoopi Goldberg was honored, but I lose that on the top of my head. But essentially, most of the people who are involved with that are from the performing arts. Well, once he installed himself, they started dropping in droves. Tickets had already been sold to concerts, and so these performers have decided to cancel their concerts, and all that money is being refunded back to all of those people. So yeah, he may think of himself as Midas, but everything that he touches fails. Oh, so then we have Pete Hegseth, the newly installed Secretary of Defense, former Fox News host. This was from Twitter, Nick Schifrin, at Nick Schifrin. Breaking, Secretary of Defense walks back his statement yesterday that a negotiated settlement is not likely to end with Ukraine in NATO because the Biden administration was lobbying for Ukraine because it was in our best interest for Ukraine to be a NATO member, and not to mention the fact the location of Ukraine. Of course, it always matters about the United States' interest. They are a port country, and that's why Putin wants Ukraine back into Russia. Essentially, Ukraine is a chess piece, but it's about their sovereignty. And so these negotiations are led by, well, he backed it back because he said it wasn't going to happen, but then he walked it back saying that these negotiations are led by at real Donald Trump, the presidency. Everything is on the table. In his conversations with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, who's the president of Ukraine, what he decides to allow or not allow, as if he could, because he's not the leader of the United Nations, is at the purview of the leader of the free world, President Trump. So I'm not going to stand at this podium and declare what President Trump will do or won't do, what will be in or what will be out, what concessions will be made or what concessions are not made. And I would suggest that you go to YouTube, find Keith Edwards' YouTube channel, and maybe some other channels, or maybe just maybe search YouTube Pete Hegseth drinking on the job, because there are videos out there that actually give credence to the rumors going around that Pete Hegseth is a functioning alcoholic. And the reason we can say this out in public is that during his confirmation hearings, it was brought up, and he said that if he got the job, he would quit drinking. Well, it seems that he may not be. So we'll move on from that. Then Justin Trudeau finally came out and said these words, which I had been waiting on. Tyler Cohen said, Justin Trudeau just now said, quote, "There's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada will be the 51st state," unquote. Because Trump had said that the Canadians would be better off if they were the 51st state of the United States Union. Got his eye on Greenland, got his eye on Panama, and then of course the Gaza Strip. And then my post was as a homage up to Brooklyn Heights, one of the greatest drag queens from Canada. One true north, strong and fierce. That's what she says on Canada's Drag Race. So moving on. Oh, just as a little side note for me, if you're a fan of Reacher, this week, the third season of Reacher is back on Amazon Prime. Back on Amazon Prime. I have been waiting for this. It'll be Amazon Prime. First two seasons are out there, so just go ahead and start watching the first, or at least go back through the second season, and it will remind you of what may be coming on the third season. So, another group that I follow on Facebook is called Gaiety. They're a long time online presence. They posted regarding the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has suspended the enforcement of a regulation that prevents discrimination based on gender identity in federally funded programs. The reason that was posted was because an article came out by Andy Lawani, Lelwan, on Gaiety's website that homeless trans women in the United States may be denied shelter access due to new Department of Housing and Urban Development regulations, which means trans people, particularly trans women, have been attacked since the first administration. And so homeless trans women can be turned away from these shelters because they are trans. Moving right along. So one of the last things for this week, everybody's been talking about the tax cuts for the wealthy. And so Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, the representative from Louisiana, House Republicans passed along party lines a $4.5 trillion budget resolution setting up a collision with the Senate. Lindsey Graham announced in the Senate that they, instead of one big bill, they're going to do two bills. One to go ahead and get the relief out because we're talking about, at least he mentioned, fires out in California, and then relief for Western North Carolina, which is going to take decades for any place to get back. And Los Angeles will never be the same because of fire. Western North Carolina will never be the same because of all the water damage. But at least the Senate has that in there. But again, $2 trillion is about to be added to the national debt, including raising the debt ceiling, because that was taken out. Remember back in December when the government almost shut down, Mike Johnson wanted to push through a continuing resolution, which means when you see a CR bill, that means continuing resolution to keep the government open for so many days instead of the whole year. And I'll remind you, the last time that we had a balanced budget was during Bill Clinton's presidency. That's how long it's been. The Republicans always do this, continuing resolutions if they're in control. If they are not in control, they try to hold up the budgets that are controlled by the Democrats, trying to get their stuff in that make absolutely no sense other than raising the debt. So again, $2 trillion is being added to the national debt this time, including raising the debt ceiling so that those tax cuts that Trump wants to extend out 10 years and then the Republicans say it will save us money. A vote against it, Mike Johnson says a vote against it will raise taxes on us by 22%. All economists say that, well, they didn't say it, but I'm saying that is a lie. They're saying it actually would not be that. It would actually not be that based on a budget. A resolution also calls for cuts to the commerce and energy departments disproportionately, particularly the energy departments. And in order to pay for it, because they raised the debt ceiling because they're gonna borrow money, which means there's gonna be interest on it. Please Google PBS and then find a video where this particular senator, he's a senator from Maine, who itemizes it out. He itemizes it out, and it's just incredulous about how much money we're talking about, and yet the Republicans can't find a way to pay for it unless they do this. In order to pay for it, it seems Medicaid and SNAP benefits, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, are on the chopping block to take money away from those programs to pay for this bill, if this is the bill that's going to go through, because Mike Johnson said he's not going to do multiple bills. He's with Trump to do one big bill. And I can tell you, if they go after Medicaid and after SNAP, guess what's next? Medicare. Or I'll just say it this way. They're going to give all this money to the top 1%, the richest people in this country, and guess who's paying for it? The poorest people in the country, which will make life for them that much harder. Small businesses who are starting up, these small business owners who have to have SNAP, Medicare recipients who don't have income anymore other than Social Security, and it's not enough. Their SNAP benefits could be taken away. Small business owners who have no other full-time job, who are trying to get their companies up off the ground, will not have insurance because maybe they don't make enough money to be on the Affordable Care Act. I fall into that category. They are saying that my Social Security benefits is not enough money to qualify me for the Affordable Care Act, so I actually had to be on the state's Medicaid rolls in order to have insurance. And there's a real possibility that I won't have insurance if they have their way because of this bill and about these tax cuts. And so that is the thing. And I need you to mark this down as a receipt for the upcoming elections, because think of this as the days of Robin Hood. Sheriff Nottingham is taxing all of these people, all of the poor, to pay for the rich. Yep, that's about as simple as I can make it. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, I can't remember which cycle it was or which committee it was, actually put up a picture in a congressional meeting of someone's penis. Well, this time around, the Representative Greg Casar, C-A-S-A-R, essentially in the first meeting of the Doge subcommittee, which Marjorie Taylor Greene is the chairwoman of, he put this out here. I want to hear more about this $400 million contract between the State Department and Tesla. Yep, he has contracts. Elon Musk has contracts that he should have recused himself from if he's going to be a federal employee. They can own the companies, but those companies cannot benefit from their connection to the federal government as an employee. Once the story got out, Musk and the department stopped any potential dealing from happening. This coincides with Rep. Greg Casar's pointing out that Elon Musk makes $8 million a day from the government. $8 million a day. Waste? Inefficiency? I would file this under waste. What does that contract entail? And how is he making $8 million a day? Doge should be looking into this rather than stopping aid that's killing people, because they tried to stop the USAID information, sending food and vaccine, HIV medication over there. And as soon as they stopped that aid, people started dying. There's food sitting in ports that cannot be touched because of this, and that food is rotting because they're looking at that as fraud and waste, or inefficiency. And I will say this. I won't use the C word yet, because in this post, they're talking about corruption. I'm not there yet. But there are receipts to be doing this. And then all what is happening with all of this, videos, posts everywhere on social media that I referenced before, that in some of my Black History Moment videos spotlighting Black transgendered people, references to transgender and queer have been removed from the National Stonewall Inn Museum in New York. All of that removed. And some people are actually saying that this should be the catalyst to start the second gay civil rights movement, or the second Stonewall Revolution. And I think I have a few more. Well, actually, I'm going to skip over some. Just get to the highlights. Yeah, so here, certainly it's within his right to do so, but I don't remember other presidents doing it as much as he does. This was breaking news from Call to Activism that some golf courses that are owned by Donald Trump may be in trouble. The tee markers may be in violation of federal law because they bear the U.S. presidential seal and have been spotted at 5 of the courses. Again, your companies cannot benefit from your government position. This has been a recurring issue at various locations since 2018. And so that's an issue. But the reason I'm bringing up the golf courses is because, yet again, Donald Trump is at Mar-a-Lago. Every time he goes to Mar-a-Lago, it costs the United States taxpayers $3.4 million. So far, today is the 16th. It's been we're just 4 days short of a full month of his presidency. And I believe he's been back to Mar-a-Lago 6 or 7 times. So you can do the math about that. Waste, I would file it under that. Waste. He doesn't need to be going back to Mar-a-Lago that much. Mar-a-Lago is also benefiting from a Republican conference that was held at Mar-a-Lago. So who's footing the bill for that? Let me see. What can I end this on? Oh, yes. And I guess I will end it with this, because the video is actually a little bit longer than I intended to be. But a lot did happen. This week. It was also announced on CNN.com that Trump officials fired nuclear staff. But what they didn't realize until after the fact is that the nuclear staff that they fired oversees the country's weapons stockpile, the nuclear weapon stockpile. See, people don't talk about this guy having the codes to our nuclear weapons stockpile. And yet, under his watch, people who oversee our stockpile were fired. Well, I can tell you after that was brought up, some of them were brought back. And speaking of firings, they announced that in the middle of tax season, IRS agents who are in their probationary period are going to be fired. So in order to become a tax person, you have to take a test and you have to pay for it, and it's not cheap. And sometimes you have to take it more than once. These people have spent that money to become tax professionals, and they are going to lose their jobs in the middle, at the beginning. Well, actually, no, we're in the middle of tax season to get all of our stuff filed. So, with me personally, I have startup costs to my small business that I have to sit down and talk about. And then 6 months out of the year, when I still have my job with Amazon out in Kansas City, and then now I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have my Social Security. So I have to sit down with somebody this year to make sure I'm doing everything right before my business actually gets going and I start making money from that. But I think refunds and filings may be delayed because of this. It's ridiculous. But I'll end it with this. This was Friday, Valentine's Day. This post was on Blue Sky Social. Blue Sky is a social media platform that actually mirrors Twitter. And it's because of all the people exiting Twitter because of Elon Musk. And they're jumping. Most of the people are in the center and left, jumping over to Blue Sky, and I'm also on Blue Sky. But anyway, this is from Laurel DeViller. She posted this on here about what Democrats did on Friday. So I'm ending this with what Democrats do, and I might do a video regarding the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. To see if we can talk about the different factions within those parties and what needs to be done so that our elections will stop being attacked. Here are the bullet points. Senator Chris Murphy and Representative Maxwell Frost reintroduced the Office of Gun Violence Prevention Act. One of the first things that they did once they took their oaths is that they shut that office down. House and Senate Democrats rallied outside the Department of Veterans Affairs to stand for veterans and VA workers. Hundreds of VA employees were fired this week also. Democratic attorneys general filed a federal lawsuit to challenge the decisions Elon Musk has made within Doge. I believe the number of attorneys general is now up to 28. I might be wrong on that, but 28 states Democratic attorney generals are suing because of some of the decisions made by Elon Musk may be defined as unconstitutional and within the parameters of what he's actually hired to do. Virginia House Democrats passed constitutional amendments aimed to protect reproductive freedom, voting rights, and marriage equality, which would be, if these passed, they pass, so they will be codified into law in the state of Virginia. Representative Sharice David, she is, I believe, the representative from Kansas, 3rd District in Kansas, pushed the Department of Transportation to implement FAA safety reforms that Congress passed last year to improve air traffic control. This is in response to some of the firings that the Trump administration did once they got in place. And then, of course, this is all connected to the commercial airline and military helicopter crash that happened in D.C., and then multiple air traffic control issues across the country. And so I didn't get to everything that I had planned, but this has been your weekend review for the week ending February 15th, 2025. I'll see you next week for my second weekend review video. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.